Well, howdy, folks. It's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making another video for you out of the Boise, Idaho area. And let me tell you something, this BMW, it's yet another BMW that is the bane of my existence. And at this point in life, I'm starting to wonder, why do I even work on these? I've worked on them before. I have an extensive history on them. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see other BMWs that I've even rebuilt engines on. But I'm telling you something, they are a mess. Okay, so this beautiful BMW, which, by the way, I think this is a really good-looking 335i. This BMW came to me with the complaint that it had a check engine light on and that the air conditioning system wasn't working. So I went through it and diagnosed it. The compressor was not working properly, so we went in and said, let's go ahead and change the compressor and the filter dryer. That job alone ended up being just a little bit more than what anybody could foresee, and we ended up dealing with what I call a bunch of gremlins and replaced a few more extra parts in there. So compressor, radiator, condenser, new belt, and all that other good stuff. And so we were able to get over the AC job that kind of went south on us, completed that job. That job went well. AC's blowing cold, everything works great. The other job that we performed on it was a ignition tune-up with new electronic ignition coils and spark plugs. And the reason why we did that is because along with the AC not working, it had a check engine light on, and that check engine light was registering that there was a cylinder number 6, a cylinder number 4, and I believe a cylinder number 3 misfire. So I checked the plugs, I checked the ignition coils, everything was all original at about 63,000 miles, and they were worn out. So we put new ignition coils in it, new spark plugs, everything worked good. That job wasn't too much of an issue. That job went fine. So we completed the ignition tune-up, and we completed replacing the AC system on it, got all that working, got the vehicle up and running. Now, I went ahead and took it for about a 50-mile test drive. That is an extensive test drive, and the reason why I took it for a 50-mile test drive is because of how the electronic onboard diagnostic system works, also known as the computer. It drive cycles every 15 to 30 miles. So anywhere between 15 to 60 miles is a good test drive to know if the check engine light's going to come back on again, because what will happen is the computer will read that there's been a misfire, or the computer will detect that there's been a malfunction. It will go through its process, and then within 15 miles of detecting that, if it continues to detect the malfunction after 15 miles, it will then turn the check engine light on and let you know there's a problem. So driving anywhere between 30 to 60 miles is a good post-op test drive, and that's a very thorough thing to do. So we get through that, okay? My technician texts me a picture of the odometer and shows that he's gone 64 miles. And so I tell him, well, go ahead and come on back. He comes on back. We get ready to call the customer to tell them that, hey, we are done with this vehicle. It runs great. And what happens next is, as we're resetting the service light and the oil light, because we changed the oil on it also, as we're resetting those lights, all of a sudden, the brake indicator light comes on. And we're going through the system, and it won't let us reset it. Now, there's no reason why the brake indicator light should come on, because we didn't mess with the brakes. We had also driven it for about 64 miles with no issues. We're literally ready to give the vehicle back to the customer, and all of a sudden, bing, the brake indicator light comes on. Now, if you do some research, you will find that this BMW 335i and the E90 series and all that from what I've looked up now, from about 98 until 2005, 2006, I've even found a couple, 2010s, have an issue, a glitch in the system where you will be resetting indicator lights, per the dashboard, resetting lights, and all of a sudden the brake light will come on and the car will read that you're well overdue for new brakes when that's not true after you check the brake pads and all that other stuff. And it's a glitch in the system. And if a normal everyday shop cannot clear the brake light out, it has to go to the dealership. They have to use their specialized computer to go in and fix that glitch. So there is a known glitch on the 335i that sometimes when you're clearing out codes and you're clearing out those service lights, the oil indicator light, the brake light will come on, and it'll tell you that you have bad brake sensors when you really don't. And so there's all kinds of things you can do to try to fix that, including replacing the sensor. Now, the sensors are up front here, and then there's also one in the back. So this has kind of bugged me a little bit all day yesterday. Like I said, I was going to give the car back and be done with the job, and then this problem came up. And so, I get a hold of BMW and ask them what gives. I can't get this light to clear out. I don't really see any rhyme or reason. And, of course, BMW did ask me, well, have you checked the brakes? And I said, no, I haven't checked the brakes. But I wouldn't think that there's any reason that, this has happened on my watch, which I've been doing this now for, 26 years? It wouldn't be the first time that something new came up while I was in possession of somebody's car, and it had nothing to do with anything that we had done, which, of course, you get the understandably. Now, notice I said understandably because I've been doing this a long time. You get the, well, that's funny. It wasn't doing that before. And you're like, yeah, we know it wasn't doing that before. That's why we're trying to figure out. But sometimes, chance happens. And so what I'm doing right now is before I go through the song and dance of trying to trip the computer and, all this other stuff, trying to figure out too much what's going on, I am just going to go ahead and take this brake off and see if the sensor is actually worn down. Now, if you ask me, if you look on the front, I don't know, guys. I mean, when I stick my finger in there, okay, so my finger does not fully fit in between here and here. You can see that. So that is less than 50%, but I don't necessarily change brakes until they're like 20%. I would not call that necessarily 20%. I'd call that, I don't know. Oh, come on. I would call that thickness probably, and there is something you can have to measure it, but I've been doing this a long time. I consider that 30 to 40%. I would, it's obviously under 50% because as you can see, you see the line right there? My finger does not fit in between there. But 30 to 40% pad, I don't know. Here's the catch. You can't really see the inside one. Now, there's your brake sensor, okay? And here is our inside pad. Right here, I believe. Now, that inside pad, as you can see, doesn't look anywhere near as good as the outside pad. And so then I wonder if, because again, when I check the outside pad here, again, it's below 50%, but, we don't even have a brake squeal yet. You see the tip of my finger there. That's about 40%. And then you look at the inside pad the best you can. And I don't know. Again, look here. This inside pad actually looks completely trashed. So, before we get into the infamous brake light issue, which is known, and we get into the song and dance of trying to trip the computer, I'm going to go ahead and take this brake off and check it and see if we are actually dealing with it's time to change the brakes. And it just so happened to trip on the computer when we went for our test drive. So, okay, guys, I'm going to end this video here, but I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to make a new video once I get this brake caliper off. I'm going to make a new video to show you my findings and stuff, and then I'm going to try to edit the videos together and post this as one video. So if there's a weird transition after I pause this or something, you know why. Like I said, these videos are so raw and unedited. You know, I'm just me. Okay, guys, I'll be right back. All right, folks, so here's the deal. This is the inner pad right here, and you can see it's pretty trashed. Okay, it is definitely more worn than the outer pad. What would cause that is the pins right here that the caliper slides back and forth on need to be serviced. More than likely they're dry, and they need to be serviced, and they need to be greased. The brake pad itself also needs to be serviced. It is time for brakes. You can see that the inside pad is wore out. That's why it looks like that. Now let me zoom in here if I can. All right. Now you see right here, right at the tip of my finger in that shadowy spot, let's see, right there, that is your brake sensor, okay? And so the pad has worn down enough that it is currently wearing into the brake sensor, and it has tripped the brake sensor. So this just so happened to have happened on our extensive test drive while we were after we had replaced the AC system and tuned the vehicle up. So ultimately, it's kind of one of those situations, these types of things happen. So I'll get a hold of these wonderful people and let them know that this is what has happened. I'll get some of this brake stuff out of here, and we'll just go from there. However, like I said in the beginning, this vehicle is known for throwing a brake code. And if you get in a situation where it just all of a sudden does it, it's one of two issues. It's either A, it's doing what it's known to do and it's a glitch, and what you can do is you can go in and you can reset the brake light by tripping and jumping that sensor. But here's the thing, that sensor has to be checked first, and you have to make sure that sensor hasn't been ground down into and that it's not actually time for new brakes. And so that's what we were doing. So it actually is time for new brakes. And let me tell you something, I've been doing this for 26 years now, and boy, this is not the first time we've completed a job and had something else come up that has nothing to do with the jobs that we executed and completed, and it came up on our watch. The only thing I can tell you is most shops are not so thorough with their post-op checks. Most shops, drive it around the block once and then let it go. And, bottom line, they teach you that's not enough. You've got to drive cycle it for 15, 30, on up to 60 miles to ensure that everything is working properly. So, and we just so happen to find during that drive cycle that it's time for new brakes. Had I given this car back, I don't know how much they drive it, but more than likely the next time they got in it and took it for a drive around town, that brake light would have came on, and they would have been calling me and said, hey, we have a brake light, at which time we would have found that it's time for new brakes. So all right, folks, well, there you go. I'm glad that I found that issue. Now I just got to figure out how to present it and go from there. I appreciate everybody that supports me and everybody that watches the channel. If you have any questions about your car repair or any projects that you have going on, shoot them to us in the comments. Either myself or one of the awesome members of the community will get back to you and help answer your questions. All right, folks, well, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off.